This is the second and likely last of the NFL draft guru Dr. Umar's analysis of the Shedeur Sanders clown show. As you may know, Shedeur was a guaranteed first-round pick, but ended up being picked 144th. Why? Being an unmotivated, entitled cancer might have something to do with it. At any rate, Dr. Umar shares more of his wisdom in this video, and it's about what you expect. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's time for the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
What better karma could Shedeur get from this than to sue the NFL and get all $40+ million back that they robbed from him on draft day? Think about it, Art. If he sues and wins, he will get all of the $40+ million they robbed from him on draft day, plus a whole lot more. And he can change the rules to make sure this never happens again. I know he don't want to do that. I know Deion Sanders is not the activist athlete that Muhammad Ali or Colin Kaepernick were. I understand that. But Deion, you might got to go RBG on this one. You might got to go straight Black Panther on this one, because what they did to your son was unacceptable. And Deion was quoted. Somebody said, maybe this was God's will or something to that effect. And Deion Sanders said, this wasn't God. This was nothing but the devil.
Yeah, the devil. Besides the Holocaust, the Great Chicago Fire, the plague, and COVID, the devil also made sure that Shedeur Sanders didn't get picked until the 5th round of the draft. Because I guess he has nothing better to do.
This wasn't God. This was nothing but the devil. And Deion is right. So why did they do this, Art? Why did the NFL plantation do this? Because the slave masters felt like they needed to remind the slaves who's in charge of the plantation. See, let's understand something, Art. Deion Sanders is the greatest defensive back in NFL history. He's one of the greatest athletes America has ever seen. Deion Sanders is the only human being to ever play in a World Series and a Super Bowl. Let me say that again. Deion Sanders is the only human being that I'm aware of to have played in the World Series of Baseball and the Super Bowl of the NFL. He won 2 rings. He won one of those rings for the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And yet the owner of the Dallas Cowboys didn't see fit to speak up and speak out about one of his players, former players, who won him a Super Bowl. But that's neither here or there. This shows Black America, Art, that white folks always stick together when they feel like their power is threatened. See, they never got a chance. They never got a chance to punish Deion as a player. Deion was his own man. He said how he felt. He did what he wanted to do. He survived the plantation. And then he got the audacity to end up at the University of Colorado, which I didn't support and really don't now, but I want him to be successful because what has happened has happened. But he's at the University of Colorado.
I can just see the owners now.
He played in both the World Series and Super Bowl? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure his kid is what we're looking for. Wait, it only gets worse. He went on to coach at the University of Colorado? Oh my God. And to think we almost drafted him. That was a close call. I mean, if only we had punished his dad when we had the chance. We only had 16 years to punish him for being such a great player.
Takes them to a winning record in a bowl game in 2 years. He signs a new contract that's worth more than what a lot of coaches are making in the NFL. And as a college team, not even a top 10 team, Deion Sanders is getting more media coverage and game day coverage than NFL teams.
No, he's not.
They hate Deion. They don't like Deion. and they wanted to humble Deion. But what was so sad and classless about this, Art? What was so sad and classless about this, Art? They did it through his son. This wasn't about Shedeur. This was about Deion. This wasn't about Shedeur. This was about Deion. This was about showing Shedeur, Shiloh, and the entire Black America who loves Deion Sanders. This was about showing the slaves who runs this plantation.
Told you it was going to get dumber. Yes, they all plotted this scheme to deny Shedeur Sanders a draft pick because they have this long-time grudge against Deion. Sanders last played in the NFL 20 years ago. Few of the coaches then are still coaching now. Almost all of the general managers have moved on. Roger Goodell didn't become the commissioner of the league until after Deion had already retired.
And they did it in such demonic form, diabolical form, and they didn't stop there, Art. They had the audacity to let the son of the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, a team that Deion Sanders helped put on the map. Look at this. They let the son, the 21-year-old son of the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, an NFL team that Deion helped to make popular, and his son prank called Shedeur on draft day.
I seriously doubt the NFL was behind that. I mean, seriously? Like, what would they gain from it?
How disgusting is that? And then the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons in the Atlanta Falcons organization, they apologize, right? But I ain't heard nothing about no punishment, Art. I don't give a damn about no apologies from white folks. I don't give a damn about no apologies from white folks. What is the punishment for the Atlanta Falcons for letting that happen?
So if you're white, don't bother apologizing. He has no use for it. Okay.
What is the punishment for the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons for letting that happen? And what is the punishment for that boy? Because, Art, you're not going to convince me that that boy didn't tell a lie when he said, allegedly, I saw the phone number on my father's iPad. I saw Shedeur Sanders' phone number on my father's iPad, and I wrote it down and did the prank call. So you mean to tell me you didn't get permission from your father to take Shedeur's number? You mean to tell me your father didn't know you took Shedeur's number?
Evidently.
Shedeur said, Art, that was a new phone. Shedeur said, I just got the phone. He only had the phone for 1 or 2 days, maybe 3. How in the hell did you get the new number in 3 days? Your father gave it to you.
How long does it take to write down a phone number off of a tablet? So what if you only got the number a few days earlier? Like, how does that fit into anything?
Your father gave it to you, but your father don't want to get in trouble because he works for the NFL and you don't work for the NFL, so it only makes sense to blame you. And now to cover the story up, Art, now they're saying other players were prank called. Now they're saying white players. You know why they saying that, Art? Because they don't want this to look like what it is. They saying that, Art, because they don't want this to look like the racist attack that it is on the Sanders family. That's what this was about. Ain't nobody else get no prank call. This was for Shedeur.
Well, Shedeur was the only one that was getting drafted way late after everyone expected him to. So it only makes sense that they would have pranked Shedeur Sanders. I mean, they didn't prank Cam Ward, right? Because he got picked first. I mean, that prank wouldn't work at all. I mean, it wouldn't be funny. You call up Cam Ward and you say, hey, guess what? You're just going to have to keep waiting for your draft pick. And Cam would say, well, yeah, but I've already been picked. See how that would not work?
But y'all have to make it look like it was draft wide so it doesn't look like racial discrimination. I hope they sue Art. And then on top of that, damage control. Damage control. Now they got executives from the different NFL teams, Art. Now they got executives, Art, from the different NFL teams saying, well, reports are coming out. Reports are coming out that Shedeur Sanders didn't do well during his interview.
Gee, how shocking would that be? I mean, I would think that if he did really well in his interview, he would have been picked higher.
They said he kind of finessed the interview. They said that if he wasn't interested in the team, he didn't even act like he wanted to answer their questions. I don't believe that at all, Art. All of that is made up. Stop lying, white people. Stop lying, black people. This was an outright attack on Deion Sanders for being unapologetic, for being confident, for being proud, for being a self-made man, or for training his son to do the same. And
You missed the adjective arrogant. I have a feeling it was arrogance that cost him his draft status. They don't want to do the Johnny football thing anymore. They don't want any more Ryan Leafs. They want to bring in people who are not going to be cancers in the locker room. And Shedeur had every telltale sign that he would be, I'm guessing. Because if he came in with a very strongly positive attitude and he was really that good, they would have chosen him. They want to make money and win games. I don't know where this plantation crap comes from, but the last time I looked, these NFL owners were driven by money. I mean, if they're truly racist, then why are they choosing all these other black players to play for them?
in the NFL, Art, they don't like players who come from two-parent homes. They don't like players with strong fathers in their life. Now, LeVar Ball was a big mouth. LeVar Ball was braggadocious, but LeVar Ball was a proud father who cared about his sons, and so they attacked him. Deion Sanders is a proud father who cared about his son. They don't want you to have no daddy. They want you to view your coach as your dad. They want you to be like any other slave on the plantation, emotionally dependent on your white daddy, psychologically dependent on your white daddy, and financially dependent on your white daddy. They don't like athletes with strong black fathers, and Deion Sanders just isn't a strong black father, Art. He's one of the greatest to ever do it and is a coach now himself. That made these white men insecure.
So the NFL doesn't want players who come from two-parent homes. I guess that's what ruined Cam Ward's draft stock. They saw this picture of Cam with his mom and dad, Calvin and Patrice, and said to themselves, there's no way we're taking him. By the way, that's a nice-looking family. And speaking of insecurities, I can't think of anything more insecure than to claim, and that's what he's doing, that black players in the NFL, no matter how successful, are only allowed to succeed because their white slave masters have control over them. That they have no power over their lives. That players like Jalen Hurts, who I thought he liked, and Lamar Jackson and Myles Garrett are not real men. They are really nothing more than slaves, pawns, under the direct control of their own slave masters. That sounds insecure.
That made these white men jealous. They hate Deion for being confident. This ain't about being cocky. This is about being confident. What is the original sin of the black man in white America? To be more confident in yourself than a Caucasian is in himself.
You know, I've been a white man for as long as I can remember, and I don't recall ever even entertaining that thought. It's almost as if he has a poor understanding of people.
Black men who are more confident in themselves than white men are in their own selves are considered a threat. Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders were a threat to the NFL power structure, and so they sabotaged that boy. And you know another reason why they did this, Art? Not only to mess with his money, not only to embarrass his father, but they also did this to keep everybody tuned into the draft day after day after day.
Yeah, so we really need a quarterback, and the dude is really good. He would help us win and make millions of dollars. But if we can refuse to draft him and potentially fall to the clutches of one of our competitors, we can extend viewership of the draft. So how many tuned into rounds 4 through 7? Around 4.3 million. That was a 40% increase over the previous year, which is a big gain and no doubt partly due to Shedeur's draft mystery, maybe even mostly due. So overall, Shedeur's snub helped the league generate 1.72 million extra viewers. Sounds like a lot. But unlike a game that is shared between two teams, the revenue from this viewership has to be shared among 32. That comes to a little over 50,000 viewers per round. Over 5 rounds, that's 250,000 viewers. I mean, that's nothing. A typical pro football game would generate about 20 million views. That's about 40 times more viewers per team. So yeah, I highly doubt that any team thought, let's give up getting a star quarterback for that. You see, it's about critical thinking, and he has no way of doing it.
Let me ask you a question, Art. How many people you think watching the NFL draft after Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders are drafted number 1, 2, and 3? How many people you think still watching the draft after that? Nobody. They're going to turn on the NBA playoffs, right? So guess what? This was 2 birds with 1 stone, Art. This was 2 birds with 1 stone. We're going to humiliate Deion. We're going to humiliate his son. And guess what? We're going to keep the whole world tuned into draft day because everybody wants to see where Shedeur lands. They used Shedeur, Art. They used him as a pawn for media ratings to make money off Shedeur, and then have the audacity to turn around and not even pay Shedeur the money he's worth. How dare you use that boy to keep everybody tuned into the draft? How dare you use that boy to keep everybody tuned into their TV watching the NFL draft and then rob him of his financial payday? I hope Deion and Shedeur sues. Whether they do it now, whether they do it tomorrow, they need to sue.
Yeah, when pigs fly. As I said in the previous video, trying to convince a jury of 12 people that the NFL didn't pick Shedeur Sanders because it's racist would be really tough. I mean, good luck with that one.
Pay them back, Shedeur. And if that means you got to go and be the quarterback coach for your father at Colorado, and I know how much he wants to play in the NFL, but I believe he can win the lawsuit and still play, Art. See, when they talk about Deion being arrogant,
they're right.
And talking about where his sons ain't going to play and he going to control where his sons go. Time out. Archie Manning did the same thing, Art. Archie Manning, Peyton and Eli's father did the same thing. Archie Manning talked about where his sons, he ain't really want his sons to go. Peyton Manning talked about the teams he would rather play for. So why was it okay for Archie Manning, the white man, to direct his son's NFL destiny? Why was it okay for Archie Manning, the white man, to control Peyton and Eli's destiny in the NFL? But now you have a black man, Coach Prime, doing the same thing Archie Manning did, and now it's a problem. Now it's a threat.
Archie Manning was severely criticized at the time for pulling the strings for his sons, so I don't know where he's off claiming it wasn't a problem. It was. Now, why did his sons get drafted anyway? Because they weren't total jerks. I mean, whatever you want to say about the Mannings, they don't seem to have an attitude problem. And that's the difference. They didn't see locker room cancers in them. And so there seems to be this disconnect. Pride and confidence are not the same thing as arrogance. People don't mind working around prideful people. They don't mind working around confident people. They hate working around arrogant people. In one of my next videos, Roland Martin is going to go off on this whole Shedeur Sanders deal and really betray his own ignorance of the difference between pride, confidence, and arrogance. So stay tuned for that one and subscribe to my channel and hit the old like button too.